Hey guys, and welcome back to uh, final video for the semester. So congratulations, you guys made it. We're going to go through the exercises for the study guide, and I'm actually going to use our book here because I have a okay, so we're going to do exercise 1 first, correct? So exercise 1 wants us to look at determine the payback period of the investment. So they give us the investments that we need to shell out as well as the cash inflows. And they want to know, would the payback period be affected if the cash inflow in the last year were several times as large? Okay, so if you remember, very easy to calculate the payback method. Okay, so in year 1 we invest in $27,000, or we invest $27,000 in the machine, and we need to figure out what are the cash flows, right? Well, oh, sorry. Let's just pull it up, makes it easier for us. Okay, so they tell us that in year 1 we have a cash flow of $1,000. So bear with me here. I apologize, I wrote the wrong number down. I was looking at my wrong notes. 15,000, right? We shell out 15,000 bucks. Okay, no problem. What's the cash inflow? Well, in year 1 we have $1,000. We received 1,000. Okay, great. How much do we have that is still unrecovered? Well, 14,000. That's easy, right? Year 2, guess what? We invest more money. Okay, we invest $8,000 in year 2. That is an outflow to us. Well, in year 2 we have a cash inflow of $2,000. So guess what? We now have $20,000 of that investment that is unrecovered. So we're just subtracting is really all we're doing. So year 3 we invest nothing, but we have a cash flow of $2,500. Great. So how much is still left uncollected? Well, 20,000 minus 2,500 gives me $17,500. In year 3, guess what? I have a cash inflow again of $2,500. Okay, so after year 3, or I'm sorry, year 4, I apologize, we're on year 4 here. Year 4, how much is still uncollected? Well, at the end of year 4, I have $13,500. How'd I get that? Very simple. I took my $17,500 and subtracted the cash inflow at the end of year 4, which is that $13,500. Year 5, what's my cash inflow? Well, my cash inflow is $5,000. Great. How much at the end of the year is unrecovered? Well, think about it this way. At the beginning of year 5, I had $13,500 that was unrecovered. During that year of year 5, I had cash inflow, net cash inflow of $5,000. So that means at the end of year 5, I have $8,500 that is still unrecovered. Okay? Year 6. Well, year 6, I have a cash inflow of $6,000. How much is left unrecovered at this point? $2,500. Now let's look at year 7. Okay, year 7 I make $5,000. Well, how much is unrecovered at the end of year 7? 0. Perfect, right? I could stop now because I'm only concerned with, or when I get my money back, okay? So we can say then in our answer, well, we're looking at the 7th year. At some point in time within the 7th year, I receive my money, okay? But I want to be more exact. That's an approximate. How can I be more exact? Well, let's look at year 7, okay? When I start year 7, I have, let's do it this way. At the start of year 7, I have $2,500 that is still uncollected, okay? However, in year 7, I make $5,000. So I can divide those two numbers, and that gives me 0.5, right? So I can say then that my payback period is 6.5 years, okay? Getting a little more exact, all right? Question 2 said, oh, by the way, what if the last the last cash inflow, like 7 times, it increases, what, 7 times, I think it said, right? Does that matter? Well, no, it doesn't matter. It does not matter at all, right? Why? Well, because the investment is recovered prior to the last year, right? The amount of that cash inflow, or let's word it a little differently, the amount of cash inflow in the last year has no effect on the payback period, because we said in the payback period, when we do the payback period, we only care about the cash flows until we recover our investment. Anything after that, we don't care, right? We stop. So let's look at exercise 13-2. And we'll just look at part 1 first. So let's look at the problem, right? So they tell us that the management of Kunkel Company is considering purchasing a $27,000 machine, would reduce operating costs by $7,000 per year. Okay, $7,000 per year, that means we're going to have a stream of cash flows, so that's an annuity. At the end of the machine's 5-year useful life has a 0 salvage value. Okay, so that means at the end of 5 years, if we want to try and sell it, don't care, not going to get any money for it. Okay, we want to know what is the NPV, and they tell us that the required rate of return, that hurdle rate, is 12%. So first thing we need to do is figure out what's the NPV of the investment, and then we need to figure out what's the difference between the total undiscounted cash inflows and cash outflows over the entire life of the machine. Okay, so let's just figure it out now. So I did my chart just a little different, right? Just a little different. So remember, we have a discount factor of 12%. Okay, so I have, what payments do we have now? What payments do we have through years 1 through 5? Not a problem. Well, I know that in year now I'm going to have $27,000 of cash outflow. Okay, I know that in year 1 through 5 my operating cost is going to be reduced by $7,000 per year. per year, okay? So that means that the total cash flow for the initial investment now is that $27,000. Okay. What is my discount factor? Well, it's 1. It's 1.000. Has to be. Why? Because I'm showing that money out now, right? Time has no factor on this. Oh, sorry. So what is the present value of the initial investment? Well, it's 27,000. Okay. Now let's look at my inflows, right? What are my inflows? Well, I'm going to have a total cash inflow of $7,000 per year for 5 years, okay? I need to bring that to today's amount. So I need to identify what factor am I going to use. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Why? Because I know it's an annuity and I know the discount rate is 12%. So I'm going to go back to my book. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go to Appendix B to the tables. Remember, table 13B1 is the present value of a dollar, meaning it only happens once. Not going to use that because I have a stream of payments, an annuity. So 5 years at 12% gives me 3.605. That's my factor. So I'm going to type it in, 3.605. There we go. Now I'm going to multiply my $7,000 times my discount factor of 3.605, and I end up with 25,235. What's my NPV? Well, I'm comparing all my outflows with my inflows. So I see here I actually have a loss of $1,765. I just summed up negative 27,000 plus positive $25,235. This project gives me a net present value of 0 based on today's dollars. Okay. 2 says, what if I consider the cash flow but not at the discount, not discounting future payments back to today's dollar value? Okay, I can do that. Well, first I have a annual I'm gonna have an annual cost savings of $7,000 for 5 years, right? So 5 times 7,000 is 35,000. Okay, good. Then I have that initial investment. Well, we know that's 27,000. Oh, sorry. 27,000. It's going to happen in year 1, or the number of years. It's only going to happen once. So I have 27,000 as my total cash outflow. Sorry guys, forgot to put another row, so just hit tab, and we can see that the difference between these two, the net cash flow, is going to be $8,000. Okay, now you might be saying, well, hey, based on just undiscounted cash flows, I should do this project, right? Well, that won't work, right? Yeah, it's positive, that's great, but we're not factoring in time and interest. And we know, based on the net present value, that this investment is providing an internal rate of return less than 12%. How do I know that? Because the NPV is negative. Okay. So that's 13-2. Now let's look at 13-3. And I'm sure I'm breaking some kind of copyright rule by using the book and publishing it, but oh well. I'm not taking credit for it, so I think that counts. So let's look at exercise 12-3. Okay. So 12-3 says that this donut shop, it's investigating the purchase of a new $18,600 donut making machine. Okay, we're going to buy a machine. Cool. New machine would permit the company to reduce the amount of part-time help needed. Okay. So we're going to buy a machine and we're going to reduce our part-time help. Okay. We're going to have a savings of $3,800 by doing this. They also tell us that, hey, in addition, this new machine would allow the company to produce one new style of donut. That one new style of donut results in sales of 1,000 dozen more donuts each year. Okay. Company realizes a contribution margin of $1.20 per dozen donuts sold. The new machine has 6-year useful life. Easy peasy, right? Number 1 says, what is the total annual cash inflow associated with the new machine for capital budgeting purposes? So we got to figure out what's our inflow. That's easy. We can do that. So we go back to the study guide. Well, we're saving on our part-time help. We're saving $3,800. So some poor person that makes donuts for us is going to be out of a job if we buy this machine. So we're going to save $3,800 in that person's salary. We're going to get more money, right? Because we're going to be able to sell 1,000 more donuts. Well, we know our contribution margin is 1.2 or $1.20 per dozen. That ends up to being $1,200. So the annual cash inflow is actually $5,000. Okay, cool. We need to figure out what is the internal rate of return for part 2. Well, that's easy, right? Because we know that the factor of the, I'm going to abbreviate and say IRR, equals investment required divided by annual cash inflows. Okay, so I'm going to say 18,600, which is my initial investment, okay, 18,600, which is my initial investment, divided by my cash inflows of $5,000, gives me a factor of 3.720. Okay. Now item 3. Item 3 says, using exhibit 3-2B as a reference, what's the new machine's internal rate of return to the nearest whole percent? We can do this no problem, right? So what we need to do is recognize, well, first of all, they told us we're using exhibit 13-B2, which is an annuity. Okay, we know this machine has a useful life of 6 years, so I'm going to go to my 6th year and I'm going to go over and I'm going to try and find 3.720. Well, I don't have one, right? I have 3.685 and then I have 3.784. So what do? Well, easiest thing to do is figure out which one's closer, right? Which one's closer to our factor that we computed of 3.720. And the closest one is actually the 3.685. and it ends up being 16%. So our IRR is simply 16%. Now, number 4. There we go. Number 4 says, in addition to the data given, we got to assume that the machine will have a $9,125 salvage value at the end of the year, or at the end of 6 years. Under these conditions, what is the internal rate of return to the nearest whole percent? They give us a hint. Isn't that nice? You may find it helpful to use the percent value approach. Find the discount rate that will cause the net present value to be closest to 0. Okay, so that's pretty easy for us to do, right? And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to put in how much are we shelling out, right? So we have the machine, purchase a machine, right? We know that's $18,600, right? We know that, okay? We know that the present value factor for this has to be 1 because it's happening now. So the present value of this has to be $18,600. Okay, that's easy, right? So we know years 1 through 6 we have a stream of money, right? A stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we have the reduced part-time help, which is $3,800. We have the added contribution margin of $1,200. We see that the total cash flow here ends up being $5,000. Okay, let's just stop right there for a minute. And then we know in year 6 we're going to get $9,125 in salvage value. Okay, so what we need to do is play around with these figures and figure out what factor are we going to use so both of these add up to $18,600, right? So we need to figure out what is the discount factor that we should use. Well, let's think about it for a second. And we're going to go back to our charts. And the first one we're going to use is going to be line 6, so that's going to be this one right here. Oh, okay. So, close. Okay, so we're right here. So we already know that the internal return, or the required rate of return, is 16%, right? We have time, 6 years. So we got to figure out which one of these percents up at the top will give us $18,000 or $18,600 of income, okay? So I'm going to pick a number. I'm going to pick 22%, okay? And I see that 22% is 3.167, okay? I'm just going to go with that. So I'm going to say 3.167. And I'm going to multiply my 3.167 times my 5,000. And that ends up giving me 15,835. Okay, cool. So now I got to figure out, I got to take that same 22% at 6 years, and I got to find what is the present value in the dollar factor, and hope that that present value of that $9,125 is going to be enough to get me to $18,600, right? If it gets me over that $18,600, guess what? It's not the right amount. I need to go down 1% and pull those factors, okay? So I'm going to go to present value of a dollar table. I'm going to find line 6, which I'm right there, and I'm going to go to 22%, and I see that it's 0.303. So I'm going to take 0.303 and I'm going to multiply $9,125 times 0.303, which ends up giving me $2,765. So in a calculator, which I already did, but I'll do it again. If I take my cash inflow of the annuity of $15,835 and I add the lump sum salvage value payment at today's dollar value of $2,765, hot dog, I get $18,600. That means my net present value is 0. I just picked a percent, right? I knew that the return of this machine has to be, or I'm sorry, the hurdle rate has to be 16%, okay? So I can't use 16%, right? Can't use it, because if I use 16%, it's not going to work for me, right? And let's look at why, right? If I use 16% at year 6, I get 0.4110 or 0.410. Okay. If I do the same thing on the annuity, I get 3.865. Bear with me here. So I said this was 3.865, okay? And I know that the present value of a dollar is at 16% is 0.410, okay? 0.410. So if I use that 16%, I gotta let's figure out what our net present value is, okay? Very easy. I do the same exact steps. I take my total cash flow, 5,000, times 3.865 equals $19,325. Okay, well, right off the bat, this thing better give me, you know, $650, or this let me phrase that, this salvage value 6 years from now better be worth $625 to make the net present value 0. So let's see. So 9,125 times 0.410 equals, oh Jesus, 3,741. I'm going to drop off the cents, okay? So when I add these up, I see my net present value, 3741 plus 1933.25, gives me a net present value of 23,066, right? 23,066, right? So that's the present value of the cash flows. Okay, well, from that I need to subtract out $18,600. I see that my NPV in this example my NPV in this example is $4,466. Up 16% ain't right. Why? Because my net present value is not zero. The internal rate of return of this project is higher than the hurdle rate. Okay, so I got to keep going up and going up and going up until I hit 22%. Okay, so the internal rate of return of this project is 22%. I just picked 22%, probably because I knew it was the answer, and already figured all this out and ran with it. But I wanted to show you what the answer was, how we got to zero, and then I wanted to show you a quick example of basically what I did off screen to figure out that 22% was in fact the correct amount. Okay, so I did that basically, what, 6 times till I got to 22%. Okay? Alright, so let's look at that was it. I believe that was it, right? Those are the only 3 that we had to do for your study guide. So you're good to go. So basically, to finish up class, all you got to do is figure out, if you haven't done it already, finish the study guide, do your quiz, which your quiz you have 60 minutes to do, because there's a few problems in there that are a little bit more, I'm not going to say complicated, they're calculating. So I wanted to give you time to do that. So I think I gave you, actually I gave you an hour and a half to do your quiz. Okay, do that, do your pre-built, and you're done. I'm going to be posting scores from Connect into Blackboard. You already know what those scores are. But if you have any zeros that maybe you forgot to do, didn't do, get them done this weekend. The last date to turn anything in will be the we'll say Wednesday the 18th. Okay, that'll be the last date. Okay, because I got to turn my grades in grades in the next day. But again, if there's something that you see on Connect that, oh man, I didn't get a score on this, or my score's a little low, maybe I want to redo it, text me, let me know, and say, hey, chapter 4 pre-built, yeah, I didn't do that good on it, can I redo it? Well, of course you can, because I told you you have unlimited attempts to get a perfect. So yes, you may go back and do that. Thanks for the heads up. I'll keep an eye on it. Make sure you have it done by, the 18th at midnight, so I can adjust and enter the grades. Okay. It's been great. I hope you have enjoyed class as much as I have doing these videos and whatnot. For those of you that I've talked to throughout the semester that have texted me, it was great getting to know you guys. Good luck with your future coursework and in your careers. If you guys need anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You have my cell number on the syllabus. Text me anytime. Be more than happy to help you out in any way I can. So thank you very much, and have a great summer.